Alrighty. Hi, everyone. Kyle here from DoinGud. It's a pleasure to be joined today by Hannah Stouffer from Hplus Creative. She is an absolute legend in the creative and digital art space. She's been running Hplus for quite some time now and works with some of the largest creators in the world, some of the top NFT artists as well. So it's a pleasure to be joined by her today and have an opportunity to hear her story, hear the background on Hplus, and some of their creators as well. So Hannah, it would be amazing if we could just get a quick intro from you, the work that you do, and Hplus Creative.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, we're excited to be a part of it. Super excited to bring all of our artists to DoinGud, and I know everyone's really excited for the launch of this platform. But yeah, I started Hplus about 6 years ago, and we're essentially a creative studio, in-house studio, and a representation firm. We work with artists all over the world. We have kind of become this go-to source for some of the top, 3D and animation and kind of new media talent. We do a lot in AR and 3D and CG and VR and 360 and now NFTs and kind of just about everything you can imagine. So there's a small team of us here in LA. We have about, 15, 20 of our artists that we represent globally. And yeah, I mean, in my opinion, it's some of the best artists out there, and obviously a bunch of them are killing it in the NFT space right now, which is amazing. And we're excited to support that and keep everything pushing forward for everyone.
Amazing. That's so cool to hear. Not to mention, I feel like you're being a little modest when you say they're killing it. They're absolutely crushing it in the NFT space right now. Like honestly, probably like half of your artists are in the top 10 highest grossing creators in the space. So it's so awesome to see you guys representing them and really like completely dominating this space. So I guess one of the first questions I have for you is, Hplus Creative, I was looking into the name a little bit and noticed that it's actually an abbreviation or short for transhumanism. So I was wondering where the name actually originated and what transhumanism kind of means to you.
Obviously I came up with the name, and after much name searching, that's always a fun part of any business or new project, is kind of like figuring out what defines it. But yeah, the abbreviation Hplus is actually an abbreviation for transhumanism, which is essentially a philosophical movement that is kind of based on futurism, but it's kind of the new form of futurism where it has the perception of human existence benefiting from the addition of technology. So basically, that the human existence and intellect is enhanced by all of our technological endeavors and research, and this could be in terms of AI or computers or digital software or AR lenses or really anything where humans are existing and benefiting from technology for the positive. And of course there's some opposition to that because everything has another side of the story. And, I guess people could say that technology isn't always good, but we heavily, rely and appreciate and admire, all the advancements of the softwares and Adobes and, the systems and setups that we use. So, yeah, transhumanism, as a loose philosophy of kind of the basis of the artists that we work with is super strong. I mean, we're definitely not traditional. We're definitely less than analog. So it seems like kind of a good summary. I like the way it looks written down, with the symbol kind of incorporated into our logo name. And, sometimes we spell it out, but it just kind of depends on the capabilities of whatever we're putting it on. But yeah, that's kind of a long and short of how that came to be.
That's super cool. I think it's so beautiful how not only is the technology actually aiding in the creation of a lot of your artists' work, but on the flip side now, their creations are actually fueling and driving forward technology in a lot of senses. So I think it's a really fitting name and really cool. I'm sure you intended all of this to happen from when you were starting and coming up with the name. So Super cool name. Thank you so much for sharing. I guess the first question I have is, how does one come to be the owner and the founder of something like Hplus? Like, what sort of background do you have? Did you previously work in the agency world? Did you work as an artist yourself? How did you find yourself founding this company?
I've been in the creative world for a long time. Essentially, my whole career was art driven, creative driven. I've been a curator of sorts for a long time. I was art writing and curating for Juxtapose and Vice before this, and kind of always had my hand in, seeing what was happening in the new world of, who's making what artists are, putting themselves forward, both personally and commercially. I actually have a long history of being a creative myself. I was a commercial illustrator for about 10 years before starting Hplus also. And I had, a couple agents and reps that worked with me on a freelance level, but that really supported my, my craft and my skill set and helped me partner with bigger clients and bigger collaborations, similar to how we operate now, actually. But yeah, I went from being basically a creative to a little bit more of a curator and a writer, and then starting Hplus about 6 years ago with a really strong curatorial sense and wanting to, explore what this new kind of direction it was with the, 3D work and some 2D work, and it always kind of like had this futuristic, nostalgic vibe, and just kind of like figuring out what that was and where that was coming from, and started to pair these artists up, and then started to basically represent them and, find collaborations and projects. And it kind of, it's developed a little bit from the beginning, it's shifted and changed a little bit. The first kind of like event or experience that we hosted under the name Hplus Creative was an exhibition out at Art Basel Miami, and that was, I think, 2015. So it started with basically an art show. Some pieces were digital, some were on the walls, some were printed, there was furniture, there was all kinds of stuff, and we started doing these really cool brand partnerships from that. And yeah, I think that the sum of Hplus is really just like, a bunch of the different parts of my history, all super intentional. The artists that we work with are all heavily selected and curated, and, it's all kind of my doing and my taste. But yeah, we've developed a really strong group of artists kind of based off of my history and the trajectory for where I kind of envision it going.
That's incredible. And I'm curious if you could talk a little bit more on like the criteria for this sort of curation. Obviously, you have a very keen eye for creators. And I'm curious, when you're looking at people to bring into your family or work with, what are some of the things you look for beyond just aesthetics?
I mean, it's a funny thing, because as a curator, I think that you're really just drawn to things that you love and things that, are appealing to you. That's definitely at the forefront of my intention of, it's just appealing to me, and it doesn't necessarily matter where they live or, how old they are or, the software that they use or any of that. I really look for someone that's developed their own kind of their own stylized approach to their craft, their personal work, that they're putting out personal work, that their work is, identifiable, and you can, recognize a Blake Catherine or a Fuckrender, or you can like, see that their strengths are really refined in kind of how they've developed their own style. And, having a bit of an established base, knowing that they're, dedicated and committed and producing work and interested in partnerships and collaborations and client work. The basis of what we do is a lot of these partnerships and, client projects and collaborative opportunities, and, someone that ideally is finished with school and freelance and kind of like ready to dive in and excited to take on projects and still focusing on their own, personal direction and where they want to take it, and, pushing themselves that way. There is a little bit of a recipe, but I think that the first thing I look for is that they have a strong, personal vision and stylized direction that they've kind of developed, which is hard. There's a lot of artists out there, and I think kind of finding your voice is really a challenge to a lot of people. And I always push that, finding the whatever is comfortable to you, like looking to yourself rather than to looking out to what everyone else is doing. It's really kind of finding your own stylized skill set with what works for you. So that's huge.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. Sorry, were you going to continue saying
no,
something?
no, I mean, I could keep talking about it forever, but I think that that's kind of like the wrap up of kind of what I look for.
I think that's absolutely beautiful and amazing. And I'm wondering if maybe you could dive a little bit deeper into your sort of relationship with these creators. At least from what I've seen, you have this it seems like your company functions more as like a family. You support the creators. There's this mutually beneficial like relationship. And I just feel like it's a very non-conventional kind of relationship in comparison to what a lot of people think between a curator and a creator. And more recently, I've been discovering beautiful connections between the curator, the manager, the gallery, and the creator. And I think in a lot of cases, like people forget the vital function that someone like Hplus Creative provides to these creators. It's a backbone, it's experience, it's expertise, and like a nurturing kind of like guiding hand. And so I'm wondering, like from your perspective, what are some of the things that you do that you feel separate you from other organizations and companies, and how do you nurture your creators to help propel their careers forward?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I agree with all of that. And I think that we are, pretty special. And, me coming from a creative background, it's all super intentional, and I know what it's like to be on the creative side, and I know what that support looks like and what I always felt like I needed and what was beneficial, in my creative process, like what was going to help me, excel the best that I could with my own work, what was someone going to bring in that was going to make it easier, and that's essentially for us, like when it comes to client or collaborative projects, it's handling all of the other stuff so that the artist can just focus on creative. So, I mean, just as a baseline of our company, we handle a lot of the administrative stuff, invoicing, agreements, kind of the logistical stuff so that the artist can really, really just focus on creative. And that's, the biggest kind of support that we can give for the client projects and the collaboration projects. And then, I mean, from there, we do a ton of, PR and outreach and connecting the dots and, teaming up with potential collaborators and, exhibition spaces and events. And, I really push the just art angle, as much, I think, as I push the, client and collaboration opportunities. I think it's really important to, still have that strength in anyone's personal practice, whether that's us doing an exhibition or, hosting an event or bringing something to, the public eye. Me from a creative background, I really value just like that, personal development and always pushing that, whether it's, in the form of an exhibition or a show or, a curatorial partnership, kind of like DoinGud. It's like, pushing the artist's work and essentially what they want to make, not always doing client stuff. But when those do come in, supporting them in that way too. I mean, I provide any kind of consulting or assistance or portfolio reviews or advice or help or, anything I can if someone's just kind of looking for an outside, opinion or a little bit of, shaping or structure as to, what they could do better or how they want to take their work. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of everything. It's a lot of things that just kind of help keep, a person's path moving along. And as a freelance artist or a full-time artist, it's, I think a lot of people don't realize how much is involved that is more than just making the work. You got to show the work and you got to, promote the work and you got to archive it and you got to try and get paid. And, there's a whole lot that goes into working as an artist full time that is less glamorous, but we like to be able to assist in as much of that as we can to just make it easy for the artists to just make work and focus on that only.
And honestly, it's really great to hear you say that, because I think a lot of creators really do need that help and actually prefer to have that help. So I think the work you guys are doing is really awesome, and really empowering creators to do what they love, and continue creating. So it's really beautiful that you guys provide that sort of service. And I guess on the flip side, outside of just curating the creators that work with you, obviously I'm sure you have insane demand right now for client projects, for gallery kind of exhibitions, for all sorts of like projects probably coming in real hot every single day to your inbox. How do you select and curate what the best projects are for your roster and your creators?
Yeah, I mean, we do. There's all kinds of, new demand and the same demand and, clients and collaborations and platforms and it's a lot. But there's a small team of us over here that reviews incoming inquiries, and I'm usually the one that does a lot of the client and, collaboration, FaceTiming and puts thought into it. But I think that I mean, I've developed a relationship with a lot of our artists for years and, kind of know what might be the best fits for them, just kind of based on what they like to take on, their schedules, kind of like the projects that will make most sense. And then beyond that, I mean, we get cool new opportunities and, we get hit up by all kinds of stuff. And it's not always the right fit, maybe just because of schedule or because of, skill sets, but we do our best to kind of, help facilitate those and find a good fit for those. But yeah, I mean, it's all over the place, to be honest. It's like, everything from shows to clients to platforms and, you know, um, I don't know. I think we just kind of do our best to maintain our integrity and our authenticity in the space and, partner with projects that feel like a good fit for our own vision and, what we're really doing and standing for, which is, supporting the artists and partnering on cool stuff.
And I guess on those notes, obviously, as time has gone on, especially in the recent years, did you ever imagine that some of your creators would be working with some of the largest auction houses in the world? I'm sure the requests you're getting more recently are drastically different than the traditional sense where you probably were getting a lot of client work. And I feel like it's possible that a lot of the opportunities your creators have had recently is like almost like fine art and gallery world stuff. So I'm curious, like, is this something that you anticipated happening like when you started the company originally, or were you solely just focused on brand and client work?
I mean, I think that that's the goal, of course, is to develop and help develop and support anyone's, personal practice and career trajectory, no matter what that entails. And for some, it does entail, more gallery auction, Sotheby's, NFTs, digital fine artwork, and not all of them participate in that. And I think that, yeah, our end goal is always to, push the artists to, their absolute potential and, find those partnerships that are going to help get them there. And that's something that we're always building on for sure. I don't think that I could have or did predict anything that has to do with NFTs. I mean, up until 6 or 8 months ago, I really didn't know anything about it. So I think that, yeah, of course, I think that my end game was always to just kind of like promote and push everyone to like their highest potential. But I think that this new level of what's possible with, digital work now is just kind of making it that that much more heightened and that much more, um, elevated. And I mean, it's all really amazing opportunities. And I think that that was always kind of our end game without really knowing how it would be, kind of worked in. But yeah, it's amazing. It's really amazing to see all these artists and, getting so much well-deserved attention and, notoriety in the space. I think it's really amazing.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you have been in this space long enough to know that it's difficult for a lot of creators to get the notoriety and the recognition they deserve. Oftentimes, like contracts actually forbid people from showing the work or sharing it or even claiming that they worked on it in a lot of senses. So I think this scene in this space that's kind of blossoming now is really giving like artists, especially digital creators, a place to have their voice heard and the proper recognition they deserve. So it's great to hear that you're reinforcing this kind of momentum and helping creators actually have the voice and the recognition they deserve.
Totally.
I guess just to close out maybe this section on curation and like projects and like the backstory of Hplus. Over your 6 years of working with Hplus, like what has been your favorite project that you've worked on, whether it's with an individual creator or like a client who is someone you really enjoy collaborating with? And is there anything that you can share that's coming up maybe soon or in the near future that you're really excited about?
Yeah, totally. I mean, we've definitely had some, dream clients and bucket list projects and, dream collabs, and we always are. I mean, we have a ton of stuff in the works currently that, I'd love to share. And I'm always really excited about the people that come to us and the partnerships that we have. But yeah, I mean, I think that for a lot of artists, it's like when the big luxury brands are noticing them. I mean, that's always super exciting, doing stuff for the big names, in luxury or sportswear, or the Fendis and the Nikes and the Guccis. I think that's always fun. And then, I mean, doing stuff for emerging musicians is amazing. It's like the musicians that you see that are just kind of killing it. We've worked with Lil Nas a couple times. And he's, a legend, and he's making, so much amazing change just kind of in how the world saw, gay rappers. And I think that his work is incredible. So being able to partner with him is, super honoring and humbling. I mean, I'm super excited by, some of the bigger projects, some of the smaller projects. I mean, we did, we do a lot of projects that we're able to, partner and pull in and collab with like 5 or 6 of the Hplus artists. And I think that those are always fun because you can kind of see everyone's work next to each other and see how well it flows and see, how complementary it is to each other. And that's a huge kind of intention of mine, is that, everyone, I mean, everyone has a really balanced, strong, visual direction of their work. And I think that that's huge, to do a TikTok project and work with, 8 of our artists, or an Instagram Cardi B project, and to work with, 6 people from Hplus. It's super cool to, be able to bring a bunch of the family to one massive project and see that end product. I think that's always really cool. I mean, I love the physical, tangible stuff. I love the book covers and packaging and, printed editorial pieces. I mean, it's always cool to see something in real life. We've done a ton of that. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot coming up. There's a lot of, cool shows and drops and, partnerships. And it's, a daily hustle over here. So definitely, follow us, or, follow on the site and see what we got coming up. But yeah, always fun stuff going on though. Always exciting.
I'm sure there's never a dull moment. And with regards to these dull moments, I guess let's transition to like the next kind of phase. Let's hear more about how do you, like, what does your typical day look like, hustling and bustling, like working amongst like so many amazing creators, like weeding through like all these different projects and opportunities. How do you stay sane?
I mean, I've definitely found the importance of balance, in my life and my work. Working for yourself and having to kind of structure, your time on your own is a personal challenge, a balance not to work at night and on the weekends, and just to like have your work-life balance. I'm personally pretty good at that. I actually maintain a pretty regular schedule. I wake up, have a casual morning, spend time outside, get off the computer at 5 or 6 and go for a run or take my dog out. And, I try not to work on the weekends, and I try and, get that life balance as much as possible. Which is super important, not to just grind all the time, and not to, grind at night, and not to, be there. I mean, and it's crazy because we have, clients and artists all over the world. So I was getting calls all night last night from somebody in Poland, and I just, I have I have some boundaries there. So, I don't really do things when it's not work hours, and I think that that's healthy. Um, but yeah, I mean, the balance is huge, and when we do stay busy and we are all over the world, and time changes can be a challenge, but it's like leaving enough time for yourself and your own creative and your own, health is huge. So I like to think that I maintain a pretty regular balance, even though it could easily, sweep me up and make me work 24 hours a day. I definitely am over those days.
It's really awesome to hear that. No, I mean, honestly, it's so great to hear that you're able to maintain a balance. I know it's so difficult for a lot of people. So hopefully, listeners are able to, like, take a little note from your example here. And because you're probably so good at this, I'm sure to some degree you try to encourage your creators to follow similar structures, similar kind of rules for like their work, especially between the NFT space and all on their client work. I'm sure it's like totally chaotic, and I'm sure a lot of people try to hustle at the expense and risk of burning out. I mean, I don't know how Fred plays Axes, and he's like making the fuck Renderverse, and he's doing all these drops all the time, and collaborations and traveling. It's so gnarly and inspiring at the same time. And I'm curious, like, is this something that you talk to your creators about? Is it something you encourage and promote, or do you find that they're relatively good at finding that balance?
I mean, everyone kind of works differently, but I am definitely a big advocate on, mental health and breaks. And if someone tells me that they need a break, and that they don't want to take on work, and that they don't want to be a part of a show, or, it's like all you can do is respect that. And I definitely respect, anyone taking a trip or a vacation or a week offline, or, just time for themselves, because it's so easy to just keep going and going and going and going. And then, next thing you know, you've been doing daily renders for 4 years, and, you're completely burnt out on it. But yeah, I think that I definitely do get, notified when someone needs time for themselves, or to go out of town, or to spend time with their friends or fam or whatever it is. And, that's great. I think that people have different levels of, tolerance and work at, just work that they want to take on. But yeah, no, that balance is big. We definitely talk about it. I mean, I talk to all my artists just about their own mental well-being, and, try and keep that as balanced and sane as possible, because, that's also part of my job, making sure everyone's cool, making sure everyone's healthy and okay, and, happy, and not overworked, and not underpaid, and not, feeling like they're doing too much. So, I mean, that's all a big part of it for sure.
Of course. And I think one of the things that's also really beautiful that I've noticed amongst your team and the creators at work is that a lot of the creators themselves are actually friends with one another, and support each other, and are so active about like uplifting each other. And so I'm curious, like, when you talk about like you encouraging the creators to follow like these sort of guidelines, and like have healthy lifestyles, and like pay attention to their mental health. Do you guys have like full team meetings like scheduled each month, or does everyone just happen to be friends through this common bond of Hplus?
No, I mean, we don't have any huge like team meetings. We do some group events here in LA, we'll host parties here in LA. I've thought about doing Zoom parties, but it's like no one wants to be on Zoom any more than they have to be. I think everyone does a really good job kind of supporting and following each other online and on socials, and that's always, good, and feels good when people can just kind of do it on their own time. I mean, internally at Hplus, I talk to, the people that I work with closely, just about every day. I mean, I talk to the artists just about every day too, just over GChat or Slack or, Zoom or whatever. I'm definitely keeping tabs, but I think that just kind of letting everyone, live their lives and, not be on the computer or be on a Zoom call more than we need to is important. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely checking in. I like the kind of in-person events and parties and times that we can just like not think about work and just go get drinks or go get dinner and, have a holiday party or have an exhibition. I mean, I saw a bunch of artists, I think last weekend at the LA art fairs, and that's always cool to like see people off the computer too. But yeah, I mean, I encourage everyone to just kind of like have life beyond the computer.
I mean, it's super important, and so it's great that you have those times to actually disconnect and connect with one another, not in like a professional setting.
Yeah,
And I'm sure it's mutually appreciated and beneficial as well.
yeah, totally, totally.
And so the next thing I'd love to ask you about, I think there's something so awesome and empowering about you being this badass female-owned business and like creative kind of agency. I'm curious from your perspective. It's obviously so important to have like more female voices, especially in the digital art space, which is in the NFT space as a whole as well, which is primarily male dominated. And so I'm just curious from your perspective, like what are the steps that other creators, especially female creators and like curators, can take so that they can have their voices more heard and like maybe follow a little bit in like the example that you're setting?
I mean, it's a personal kind of like just drive that I have to be a crazy entrepreneurial powerhouse. And that's just literally what I learned from my family and my father. And, I had a pretty special upbringing where I was, definitely encouraged and, taught that you could literally do anything that you wanted to do, follow your goals, follow your passions, follow your dreams, all that. But yeah, I mean, the artists that I work with, my team, the people that I bring in, I mean, it's a very intentionally diverse, woman, minority, queer forward, group of people I mean, that's super important to me too, including that diversity in the minorities. And we are primarily women owned and operated, and, minorities and the artists that we work with are all, diverse and all over the world. And it is super easy to just, bring in all the white males, to be honest. But I really am cautious about that. You know what I mean? And it's intentional. You know what I mean? It's like there's so many amazing talents and people and, artists out there that aren't necessarily in the limelight and that deserve shine, and that could maybe push the diverse angle a little bit more, and I think that that's important. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's like not obviously not something that I could have avoided, but also super intentional and kind of like how I run and operate, just like the baselines of who we are. Being aware of that and having that kind of as a guide, a driving force for us. I mean, that's always huge.
Mm-hmm. And it's really nice to hear that that's intentionally like thought through and paid attention to, at least from like who is working in your company, from like the creators you're working with. It's super awesome and inspiring. So thank you for sharing that. And it's also equally inspiring to see some of the people who you represent also equally uplifting the voices of minority groups and females as well, to make sure their voices are heard and represented in the space. So it's really great to hear that that's something that's very intentional and consistently on your mind.
Yeah, totally.
And I would love to also touch upon something else. You mentioned having this intention of this diversity and like people from all walks of life kind of represented within your organization, from like the ownership and the team standpoint to your creators. Are there any other like projects that you work on as a company or like causes that you support that you're passionate about or have been following super closely and are hoping to work with in the future?
I mean, I think that there's a lot of, really amazing platforms and charities and nonprofits and, people in the space and in our network that are, having their own hand in kind of like pushing forward with what's important in, just a social space or an environmental space. Yeah, I mean, whenever we get the chance to, I think that those are always important to participate with and in. And, we've done some charity work and some nonprofit work, and, that's always huge. I've considered, kind of starting our own as a baseline, but I think that, leaving that up to the professionals that are already in the field is huge. I mean, I feel super strongly about environmental impact, and we are essentially a paperless and as sustainable as possible company that we can be. And, that's always kind of on the forefront of what I want to do and the direction that I want to take, just like with our impact and our, carbon footprint. But yeah, I think that, the more opportunities, the better to, make a positive, impact or contribute or help to, the nonprofits and the companies out there that do have a greater, common goal, for the betterment of society or the planet or whatever it is. I mean, there's so many great partners out there to work with for that.
Mm-hmm. It's really great to hear that you guys are super on top of it and mindful of that. We're also equally as excited to have you guys supporting the Open Earth Foundation with your drop that you'll be releasing with us pretty soon. So we're super excited to have you paired with that cause. I know Martin from the Open Earth Foundation is so pumped. So it's really great to hear that, outside of all of this, that your company and Hplus and the creators are also mindful of their impact as well. So super, super cool. I guess at this point, let's transition into the last phase of our conversation. Let's talk a bit more about your creators. In particular, I'd love to hear a little bit more about Renderfruit, Blunt Action, Mishko, Postbook, and Skiva. Could you maybe talk a little bit about Renderfruit, how they came to be working with your organization, and what you love about their work?
Yeah, totally. Renderfruit. Clara is an artist that's based down in Buenos Aires. She's been on our radar actually since the beginning. Clara was one of the very, very first artists that we started working with, and she was part of our first show there at Art Balls in Miami in 2015. And she's been on my radar for a long time, just as an amazing 3D artist and a woman, and someone outside of the US. Like I said, she's in South America, in Argentina. And we've had the opportunity to work on a couple projects since the beginning. And she's always really had a strong personal practice, and I feel like was really one of the first women to be kind of in the forefront of the digital space that I recognized really early on. Always been a fan of her work, and she's back with us again, and she's part of the drop that we're doing over with DoinGud. And she has a really kind of unique surrealist style, definitely, of her own. I think that her work is influenced a lot by music and dreamscapes and really cool stuff. I've always really, really been drawn to it. And especially as another female artist, always into that.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And next, let's hear about Mishko.
Mishko, Nevin is another one who, I love. We've been working with Nevin for years. He's based here in Los Angeles. I started seeing Mishko's work like pop up everywhere. He was having moments a couple of years ago where it felt like everyone was wanting to use, his text work and his style and his stylized, kind of creations. And there's been a lot of, followers and people that have tried to duplicate his work. And it just kind of seemed like an avalanche of this style that he developed, which is a super hands-on kind of analog process. He does a lot of really cool type work and does these kind of trippy trailers and tracers, and has definitely developed his own style kind of based around typographics work and fonts. And once when I saw his work, I was like immediately drawn to it, and I was like, oh my God, who is this? Like, I have to contact him, I have to work with him. And he's an artist here in LA. I get to see him every now and then, but he has definitely developed like his own style just kind of out of his own process, and it completely exploded. It's like, there's so many accounts out there now that try and duplicate it and don't quite get it right, but he's definitely the original legend behind the font work that you see, his signature style. I love his work.
It's super, super cool. I've actually recently been following him prior to hearing about him from your connection. Really awesome stuff. Same with Render Fruit. All people I've been following for years who so happen to also be connected to Hplus, which is super cool. Next up, let's hear about Postbook.
Postbook Natasha. Natasha is actually one of our most recent artists that we started working with. She's also here in LA, which I'm super fortunate to have, because it's not often that I get to, see and hang out with the creatives that we work with. So having our few LA-based artists is really, really special, and I'm excited to hopefully see her for drinks and dinner in, the next couple weeks. But her work is super unique. She has been doing what she's been doing for a long time. I mean, her craft is super dedicated and super stylized. I mean, I feel like you could recognize her work, out of a lineup and know that it's hers. She does kind of a, traditional analog approach, but she does everything digitally. She does a lot of, environmental based work. There's, a lot of kind of this surreal, kind of landscapes and psychedelic twists to her work that are really amazing. She does everything super hands-on and super layered, but she has started to take her process and turn it into motion. So she's started to kind of animate these layers, and she's pushing her work to those next steps now to see what comes next and see how far she can push her work. But yeah, I always really love her landscapes, her color palettes, kind of like the fantasy level and layers to her pieces. And yeah, she's one of our newest artists. I'm super excited to have her on board.
Super cool. Yeah, I actually really loved some of the animation work she was putting out recently. Again, just like a perfect example of someone who works mostly in static or like 2D kind of spaces, just really pushing the NFT medium forward. It was really cool to see that. And I guess the last two, let's start off with Skiva.
Skiva is another one of our new artists. He is heavily kind of invested in the blending of fashion and textile with 3D work. I think that there's a big future on kind of like how textiles can be incorporated and modeled, and this is a huge space for fashion and wearables, and I think that that's really the basis of where he wants to take his work. I mean, he does an amazing job at kind of like developing these forms and working with fabrics and layering and all of these kind of soft goods and fabrics that you would see kind of in the fashion industry. So his work is super strong for that. He does all of the modeling of his characters and of the apparel that they're wearing. So he's amazingly skilled in kind of that direction. I'm super excited for his piece that we have with DoinGud. You'll see you'll see the fashion influence behind his work there, and yeah, I'm excited to take on more projects with him.
Yeah, I'm equally as excited to see the piece. I've heard really good things, so it's only getting more and more hyped in my mind. And then the last one I'd love to talk about, which actually was a coincidence, is Blunt Action, because I've actually collaborated with them in the past, and I actually sought them out to try to organize two separate drops, not knowing that they actually worked with you guys. So it was super cool to find out that you represented them as well. They're really cool, really talented. So I'd love to hear what you have to say about them.
Yeah, I love the Blunt Action guys. It's actually a small studio. There's a couple of them that have their hand in creative and have these amazing skill sets to kind of bring this metallic and iridescent and super futuristic kind of approach to the 3D work that they put out. They're amazing animators. They're amazing in still. They do, these chrome textures and, kind of like these futuristic vibes and, ideas behind their work. But well, they're always working on fun projects. We've had some really cool opportunities and partnerships and collaborations with them. They're definitely some of my favorites. I love, the work that they put out just personally. I feel like you can recognize their style. They did, recently a piece with Lil Nas X. We've done some cool work. Actually, I don't want to say too much about what we haven't released yet, but yeah, fun projects on the way with them too. I'm really excited about their work all the time.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing about those creators. I know you have a ton more who are also equally as creative and amazing. However, that might have to wait for another time we discuss. I would love to close out this conversation maybe with two more questions. The first of which being, what are some of the secrets that you personally have that keep your creators happy?
The secrets that I have to keep my creators happy. Um, I think that, when when a project gets difficult, it's really just like being that, that support system, when they don't want to, tell somebody that it's hard or they need time off or that, their schedule is hard. It's like it's me that kind of comes through and kind of levels everything out and manages expectations. And I don't know if it's a secret, but I think that's a really key factor in kind of like maintaining our healthy, relationship balance that we have. I don't know if, about any secrets. I mean, I try and be as transparent as possible and, just really a support system and, help out the artists with whatever they need and, offer my 2 cents and kind of, expertise and, I don't know, career approach to it. But yeah, I don't know if there's any secrets there.
Well, we appreciate you being super straightforward on that, at least. And I'm sure if people want to dig a bit deeper, that there's probably stuff online they can find about you, talking about
Yeah.
more about your work, etc. And I guess the final question I have for you is, what is your favorite piece of artwork that you own? It can be an NFT or a physical, and it doesn't necessarily have to be someone that you represent.
Oh God. I mean, I have an insane art collection from having been in this world for literal ever. And I also have a pretty amazing NFT collection with a lot of the artists that we work with and that we represent. And, that's a whole new collection that I'm excited about. But I think that, I mean, I'm never going to have enough wall space to, show and look at everything that I own. It's just, I think I've come to terms with that. But one of my recent things that I framed are actually from a garage. Actually, I have three new, well, maybe two favorites that I got recently. One has been in a tube for probably the last 15 years, and I've been dragging around these old Iron Maiden tour posters from the 80s.
Yes.
And I just actually put them in really expensive frames, and they're all like eaten by moths and they're all torn up and the edges are all frayed, but they're from two Maiden shows in 1982. And they look so cool framed up. And, obviously Eddie, the character, the illustrator, I can't remember the illustrator's name that developed the Eddie character, but he's a classic, fantasy artist from the 70s and 80s, and his work is really phenomenal. But they're both portraits of Eddie, basically, from Iron Maiden. And then I got this really epic big oil painting of kind of like a sexy nun at a garage sale recently for $50, and I think that's maybe my new favorite. I mean, I have a ton of work from friends. I have a ton of paintings. I have a ton of sculptural stuff. It's like my collection is, I wouldn't even know where to start. There's a lot of it. And then of course, the new NFT collection that I have, I'm hoping to get a big old screen in the house and be able to show that work. Because I think that's always amazing to, be able to see that stuff all the time. But yeah, my collection is very extensive.
Wow. Well, hopefully we can see some photos of this collection someday. And hopefully we can also continue to see some awesome NFT collecting from you as well. and hopefully leveraging platforms in the future to actually like really hone in on your curation skills. They're obviously second to none. I guess to close out, is there any place that people who are listening can go to find out more about your creators, yourself, Hplus? I know you have amazing Vimeo interviews with all of your creators between you and them, kind of doing a deep dive. Is there anything else you'd like people to keep their eye on?
I mean, we keep our site really updated. We have our news blog on our site that's updated with all the new project releases and, events that we have coming up. We are starting to work on more physical events, which is exciting. We have a bunch laid out in August, and I'm sure we'll continue to do that the rest of the year. Our socials are always super updated, just Hplus_creative on everything. And then, we have some pretty cool interviews with a bunch of our creatives. You can find those under our highlights from the IG lives that we do. We also put everything that we do that's kind of, longer format, motion worthy up on Vimeo. Everything kind of overlaps, but we got a pretty good team working on the archives. So there's definitely no lack of work and, fun projects and info to share out there. We keep it all pretty updated.
Amazing. Well, Hannah, thank you so much for speaking with us today, for shedding so much insight and amazing thought leadership on the work that you're doing. It's really inspiring and awesome. And we're really equally as excited to be doing our debut drop with you guys. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having us. We're super excited to show all the work and keep the partnership going. And amazing. You guys are doing amazing things over there. So we're all really excited to be a part of it.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. And thank you everyone for tuning in. We look forward to having you join us again next time. Thanks.
Bye. Okay. Bye-bye.